So you're hot on doing the keto thing, but you're plant-based and you don't know how you're going to get your protein without kicking you out of ketosis. It's a very viable concern, and it's quite frankly probably the reason why most vegans don't try a ketogenic protocol. They feel like a ketogenic protocol is all protein, and the only way that you can get your protein is either by eating a bunch of soy or by combining a bunch of starches. Well, the good news is there are some ways around that, and quite honestly, they're tasty ways, and they're ways that might end up enriching your life. So I'll break down how to get protein on a plant-based keto diet and how to do it properly, and also share the truth with you so that you don't fall victim to having to eat a bunch of things you don't need to be eating, okay? Keto and a vegan diet or plant-based diet work very, very well together. I've tried it myself, and I've worked with a lot of people that have done it successfully and still do it successfully. So let's go ahead and let's break it down. But first, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button, and then please hit that bell icon to turn on notifications so you know whenever I'm going live. All right, so the first thing that we have to address here is how the body utilizes amino acids from protein first and foremost, because whether you're vegan or not, it's important that you know this. Okay, so when we consume protein, we don't instantly take the amino acids from that protein and have it go somewhere for a proper use, right? Like if I were to eat, let's say, some chicken, that chicken doesn't immediately come into my body and immediately fuel something with all the amino acids from that chicken. Okay, that chicken would essentially go into an amino acid pool, and throughout the day, as needed, as driven by demand, my body would pull amino acids for what it needs. One thing that people don't understand always is that your body doesn't just have like 1 + 1 = 2 with protein, okay? So amino acids construct different things with different amino acid profiles. So if my body needs to, let's overgeneralization, but if my body needs to build a toe muscle, it might grab some amino acids from over here and compile them. If my body needs to rebuild some liver tissue, it might grab some amino acids from over here, and it mix and matches them specifically for what that given need is, okay? The whole reason behind me saying this is simply because when you look at a typical plant-based lifestyle, they're getting their aminos from different sources. Like they might eat some corn and then they might eat some rice. And by combining those two things, they get all 9 essential amino acids. They're creating a complete protein. Now, the common concern is that you have to be eating those things at the same time. Well, quite frankly, you don't, okay? Because the body doesn't need to have them all at once. You could have some of your amino acids for breakfast, some of your amino acids from a different source for lunch, and some from a different source for dinner. And collectively, they're all gonna fill that pool, okay? The question that comes to mind is, what is this timeline, okay? Because I would argue that if I were to eat some corn today and only eat corn, and then tomorrow I ate rice, and then the next day I ate peas, that might be too much of a gap, leaving me with a nutritional insufficiency. So we have to look at, okay, well, how long is that time frame? Well, that all depends on the person. We don't really know. The one thing that we can say is that the ketogenic diet lends itself very well to this for 2 reasons. One, when you're consuming a high amount of fats, it's going to make it so that the proteins and the amino acids that you are getting are going to digest slower, meaning you have a higher chance of them still being in your system when the next group comes in. So rather than having to eat a bunch of starch all at once, you're able to spread it out a little bit more and not kick yourself out of ketosis. Because here's the conundrum that vegans face. They think that they need to get their protein from their quinoa and from the rice and things like that. Well, you don't have to do it that way, okay? That would kick you out of ketosis and that would mess everything up, right? So where do you go without just leaning on soy all the time? Well, this is where it all makes sense. You see, the ketogenic diet is very, very protein sparing. What that means is that beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is the main ketone body, what it does is it prevents leucine from oxidizing. That means it prevents your muscle from breaking down, which means that you can get by with like 1/3 the amount of protein that you normally would be. So it's very, very beneficial for someone that's on a plant-based diet because it basically eliminates your need to have to constantly scour for ways to get protein. It allows your body to preserve it so you can get by with less. Very, very powerful. All that being said, let's talk about ways that you can get protein, okay? So first off, we have the soy equation. I'm not the biggest fan of soy, but I do think in small amounts it's okay. You're gonna get all of your 9 essential amino acids from soy. That's the benefit. However, you probably are aware of the negatives, right? Okay, obviously the estrogen mimicking components. Soy mimics estrogen, so it triggers a sort of a vicious cycle of estrogen kind of piling up, and then your body not being able to process it, and you get all this toxicity, okay, and what's called 1,6-hydroxyestrogen, so it's all these different things that are not good. But the other side of the equation is you've got what are called anti-nutrients in it. Okay, anti-nutrients are phytates and things that prevent minerals from actually absorbing. So without the minerals absorbing, you become deficient in minerals like copper and zinc, and if you become deficient in zinc, then it leads into a thyroid issue. That's why a lot of times plant-based dieters end up with secondary thyroid issues, because they're not getting the right amount of zinc that they actually need. Okay, so anyway, case in point is in small amounts it's okay. Here's the cool thing: if you're actually having fermented soy like tempeh or natto or anything like that, the good thing with that is you're breaking down the phytates. Okay, so at least when you ferment it, you don't have the anti-nutrient side, so you still get the minerals, but you do end up with the issue still with the estrogen. Again, small amounts, you're okay. Okay, secondly, you can have hemp. Right? So hemp is going to have all 9 of your essentials. So I recommend leaning on hemp whenever you can. Whether you have hempeh, which is like a fermented hemp that's made into like a patty or whatever, or you just have straight up hemp hearts. Okay, high fat, so super good when it comes down to keto. You just don't want to be skewing too high down the omega-6 road. So that's the other issue that vegans face, right? Is omega-3 to omega-6 balance. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Nutritional yeast. Okay, this is a great way to get an abundance of amino acids. So let's say you're having some hemp hearts and you're having a flax egg that you've made like a nice flax cake with, and then you're just looking for something else just to sprinkle on it to get some extra amino acids. Make a cheese out of nutritional yeast or something like that with a little bit of water. There you go. You've got your essential amino acids coming in. So there are lots of different ways. Another thing that I recommend is sacha inchi. So this is like a seed, and a lot of times it's made into a powder, or you can straight up eat the seed that's been roasted or anything like that. A nice complete amino acid profile with the essentials and very low carb. Okay. But one of the things that I really have to address here, and this is something that non-plant-based dieters don't always understand, but a lot of plant-based dieters do, is that pea protein is probably one of the most powerful proteins that you can consume in the whole spectrum, whether it's veganism or not. Okay, now I'm talking about pea protein coming from like an isolated pea protein, not just straight up eating peas. Okay, obviously peas have a lot of sugar that would kick you out of ketosis. We're trying to keep the carbs under control, so you're not having to eat a bowl of quinoa and a bowl of rice just to get your protein. Okay, the interesting thing about pea protein, there was a study that was published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition that took a look at test subjects and had them consume either pea protein, whey protein, or a placebo. Okay, so 3 groups. Okay, they had them all undergo a weight training regimen for 12 weeks and consume their 25 grams of pea, whey, or placebo 2 times per day. Okay, what they found at the end of the study was that the group that consumed the pea protein had a 20% increase in their overall muscle thickness. The whey protein group had a 15%, and the placebo group had an 8%. So the pea protein group actually ended up getting more muscle thickness. So they actually had more of the protein going to the proper place. The cool thing is, with a vegan keto diet, if you're doing this, you don't have to be consuming all that much protein. Now, another thing that you can consume is fava. Fava bean is a really good protein source, good amino acid profile, but it also is a direct precursor to L-DOPA, which means that you're going to get the satisfaction of a dopamine hit, meaning you're not going to be as hungry. So therefore, you're going to consume a lot less. Okay, now just FYI, when we start looking at all of this, there are different sources. Obviously, you can eat these things. You can eat a little bit of tempeh. You can eat a little bit of hempeh. You can eat the sacha inchi, things like that. But just so that you guys do know, Sun Warrior, who you probably know of in the vegan community, has created a clean keto protein, and this stuff's really cool. So here's what's in it, just so that you guys know. Okay, it's got the fava bean protein. Okay, so it's got the L-DOPA situation. It's got the pea protein in it. Okay, so we've got the clean pea protein, but then we have brown rice protein peptides. Okay, these are basically the building blocks so that the body has what it needs to assemble protein. We're not talking about the aminos, we're talking about the peptides here that allow the structure to be made. Then we've got MCT from coconuts, so we've got the good lauric acid effect. Okay, we've got all these things that are gonna allow the body to be in ketosis but still build protein. And then they also have algal oil in it, okay, which I'll talk about in just a second. So anyhow, the simple point is, if you're doing a vegan keto diet, you're gonna wanna check out their clean keto protein, because honestly, it's probably gonna be one of the quickest ways. Like, you have a couple servings of this and you're gonna be at your daily allotment for protein within the ketogenic spectrum. Okay, so at the end of this video, go ahead and check them out. Special pricing for anyone that's watching this video down below in the description. Really, really cool stuff. They're really pioneering that world. Okay, so now I do wanna talk about algal oil for a second. Okay, so we have to jump ship over to the omega-3 conversation for a second. Normally, plant-based dieters are deficient in omega-3. no matter what they say, no matter what you say, it usually is an issue. Simply because alpha-linoleic acid, the omegas you're getting from plant-based sources, have a hard time converting into the active form that our body can utilize. Less than 1% of alpha-linoleic acid converts into usable omega-3s within the body. I'm not saying this to get upset with you or say that your diet is wrong. I'm saying this because we got to find a solution, okay? And that's where algal oil comes in. Okay, so algal is omega-3 that comes from algae. Now, what happens is algae is the original epicenter of the omega-3 in the marine food chain. Smaller fish come over and they eat the algae or the phytoplankton, and then bigger fish eat that, and that's exactly how you end up with omega-3 in fish, okay? Because you're getting it from the original source of algal, but you're not going to find that in any land plant, okay? So the interesting thing is omega-3s are a strong catalyst for protein synthesis. So if your omega-3 levels are high, there are studies that show that you're going to synthesize more protein, which means that you get by with less protein because your body can utilize it. Omega-3 also activates mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, which is sort of that anabolic switch that allows you to build muscle. So if your omega-3 levels are low, you're going to end up needing more protein. If your omega-3 levels are high, you need less protein. Okay, so you want to get the omega-3s nice and high. It's very, very critical. Now, this plays, of course, that big role, right? Now, the cool thing is you can get algal oil from different sources. You can take supplements, but FYI, it is also in the Sun Warrior Clean Keto Blend, so it makes things kind of interesting. It's all a delicate balance of being able to get your omegas right, but get your protein right. So the simple point here is you can do it. It's actually quite easy, and you don't have to be loading up on a bunch of carbs. Vegan keto is possible, and you can get by with less protein, and the protein that you do get in is going to be highly effective at getting you your goal. So you can focus on getting the fats and getting the micronutrients that you need to support your plant-based keto lifestyle and basically live within the realm of why you started that lifestyle to begin with. So as always, make sure you're keeping it locked in here on my channel, and don't forget to check out Sun Warrior down below in the description, and I will see you in the next video.